Donald Trump has made it very clear that he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And tomorrow, when the announcement is made and his name isn't called, it's safe to say he's not going to take it well. You can already see the signs, because today he was visibly frustrated. The truth is, Donald Trump doesn't seem to want the Nobel Peace Prize because of actual diplomacy or achievements in peace. He wants it because he believes shouting the loudest and making the biggest splash earns you recognition. And that's exactly what we saw again today during his meeting with the president of Finland. When the Finnish president was asked if he thought Trump deserved the Peace Prize, his answer was, well, not exactly the kind of endorsement Trump was hoping for. It was awkward. It was tense. And yes, it was a little embarrassing. We're going to break down exactly what happened in that meeting and the reaction that followed inside the Oval Office. But before we do, if you're enjoying the channel, please leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us keep this work going. Now let's start with one of the most telling moments, the question about Donald Trump's recent visit to Walter Reed.
Nice tall gentleman, guy with the yellow shirt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to change gears just really quickly and ask you, you're going to Walter Reed tomorrow? What are you having done? And how are you feeling?
I'm meeting with the troops, and I'm also going to do a sort of semi-annual physical, which I do. And I think I'm in great shape, but I'll let you know. But I have no difficulty thus far. Is there wood around here? I'll knock on. No difficulty. Physically, I feel very good. Mentally, I feel very good. You know, I did about 6-7 months ago. I do physicals. I like to, when I'm around, I like to check always early, always be early. It's a lesson for a lot of people.
Oh yes, according to him, Donald Trump is in perfect health. Everything's just fine. But later in this video, we're going to take a closer look at what he actually said, because I had to stop the clip before we reach the part that really shows how scattered his thoughts have become. Now let's be honest, the image he's trying to project doesn't exactly match reality. The energy seems low, the presentation is off, and you can tell something isn't quite right. Sure, his team insists he's in great physical shape, but what we're seeing and hearing tells a different story. At the same time, Trump is surrounded by controversy on every front. Yet instead of focusing on policy or solutions, his attention seems locked on something entirely different. Recognition, specifically his dream of winning the Nobel Peace Prize. But here's the thing, his focus isn't on diplomacy or bringing peace anywhere. He's not sitting down at negotiation tables or leading real efforts for resolution. Reports say that during past briefings, even senior advisors like Marco Rubio had to step in and help explain key points to him. Still, rather than talk about peace, Trump chose to brag about the wars he says he ended. That's what led to the awkward exchange we're about to see. The moment right before his public meltdown after the president of Finland gave his rather pointed response. Let's get into it.
I don't know what they're going to do, really, but I know this, that nobody in history has solved 8 wars in a period of 9 months, and I've stopped 8 wars, so that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine. I know this. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives, and that's the thing that bothers me so much about the Russia-Ukraine. 7,000 people are dying a week. Young soldiers. They're almost all soldiers of Ukraine and Russia. So in theory, it doesn't affect us, no, but it's a terrible thing.
Of course, that's how Donald Trump seems to think you win a Nobel Peace Prize, by demanding it and lashing out at anyone who suggests you don't deserve it. His logic appears to be, if you don't give me the Peace Prize, I'll just attack you until you do. That's been his tone for weeks now, maybe even months. And I wanted to start with that Walter Reed clip, not just because it kicked off the press conference, but because it shows something deeper about where Trump's mindset is right now. He's clearly become much more aware of his legacy and how history will remember him. And that's really what's driving all of this talk about faith, about legacy, and especially about that Nobel Peace Prize. So when the president of Finland was asked whether Donald Trump should receive the award, his answer was, let's just say, not what Trump wanted to hear. And that's when things started to unravel. Let's take a look.
You have time and again said that one should not underestimate Mr. Trump's negotiating ability. Do you personally believe that Mr. Trump deserves to win the Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow?
Well, I think that's probably a decision that comes from the Nobel Committee. And my take is that there are two key pieces that have to be solved in the big picture. One is in the Middle East, and we're seeing the results of that. And then the other one is between Russia and Ukraine. And once those are solved, I don't see any impediments to it.
Do you plan to nominate Mr. Trump next year if he doesn't win?
This year? I think probably the best nomination would be coming from Zelensky and then the King of Jordan. Those would be two that would come. But I think you have to, my experience with the Nobel Peace Prize comes from Martti Ahtisaari, the former president of Finland. He got it in 2008, and he got it because he negotiated 3 peace agreements on 3 different continents. Namibia in Africa, Kosovo, Serbia in Europe, and then Aceh in Indonesia. And his message was always that when you do a peace agreement, the key is that it looks like an equal match, that the big guy doesn't win over the small guy, and vice versa. But I have to say that the track record of the President of the United States in the past 7 months, 8 months is rather impressive.
That response was honestly some of the most impressive tightrope walking I've ever seen in my life. If the Finnish president wanted to stay completely in Trump's good graces, he could have just said, sure, why wouldn't he win the Peace Prize? But instead, he gave the most careful, diplomatic answer possible. Something like, well, he'd have to do some things, maybe more things he says he wants to do, and we'll see. Basically, he said absolutely nothing while saying a lot. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is acting like it would be the greatest injustice in Nobel history if he didn't get the Peace Prize, as if it would somehow be a tragedy of global proportions. And sure, some past winners have been controversial. Henry Kissinger, for instance. That one still raises eyebrows. But Trump's meltdown didn't stop there. He had more to say. And of course, he turned his attention to Barack Obama.
The Nobel Peace Prize for way less than you did, and President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize
he
for way less.
He got a prize for doing nothing.
Exactly.
Obama got a prize. He didn't even know what he got. He got elected, and they gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing but destroying our country. No, he was not a good president. The worst president was Sleepy Joe Biden. But Obama was not a good president.
Are you going to do something with the
They gave him a prize. How many months after he won the election, then they gave him the Peace Prize, right?
It was right after he was elected.
My election was a much more important election.
The only thing Donald Trump seems able to talk about anymore is Barack Obama. Every time, it's the same line, that Obama destroyed the country, and somehow Trump destroyed it better. Like, what does that even mean? He's clearly obsessed. It's almost as if Barack Obama lives rent-free in his head 24/7. Maybe it's because Trump can't stand being compared to someone who's calm, articulate, and actually respected on the world stage. That contrast drives him up the wall. Trump loves to talk about being strong, but lately, he's been anything but. The rants, the energy, the constant need for attention. It's giving insecurity, not strength. And while the meltdown about Obama was expected, it's kind of his favorite topic. What came next was even wilder. Trump started rambling about how he ended wars, then immediately contradicted himself about not being able to end wars, then back again. Just listen to this part.
Closely together, having to do with Russia, Ukraine. And I would have thought that would have been easier because that would be number 8 for me, number 8. And I would have thought the Russia deal maybe would have been one of the easier ones. And unfortunately, last week they had over 7,000 soldiers die.
Donald Trump really loves reminding everyone just how unprepared he can sound sometimes. He actually said, "I thought it would be easy." And my favorite part was when, after meeting with President Zelensky, he announced that he now has a better understanding of the military and economic situation on the ground. This is the same person who's been claiming for months that he could have stopped the war, prevented it, and even ended it instantly. Yet he's never explained how. Then suddenly, after one meeting, he says he's finally familiar with what's happening. That doesn't exactly inspire confidence in his so-called stable genius image. This kind of attitude, that things are easy, that leadership is just for show, has been a running theme. It's how Trump and many around him approach governing, like it's a performance, not real life. But real lives are at stake, both abroad and at home. For them, it's often treated like a stage. For Trump, it's all about looking like the tough guy. And that's why, right after that, he shifted his focus back to talking about President Obama and President Biden.
For a lot of people. But I also did a cognitive exam, which is always very risky because if I didn't do well, you'd be the first to be blaring it. And I had a perfect score. And one of the doctors said he's almost never seen a perfect score. I had a perfect score. I got the highest score. And that made me feel good. When they asked, would I like to do one? I said, yeah. I said, did Obama do it? No. Did Bush do it? No. Did Biden do it? I definitely did. Biden wouldn't have gotten the first 3 questions right. No, Biden didn't do it. Biden should have done it. I'm actually a person that believes that if you're president, you should do a cognitive exam. But last time I took a cognitive exam, and it was a perfect score. The doctors announced it. And by the way, not the easiest test. The first few questions are pretty easy. Once you get into the middle, it gets a little trickier. And there aren't a lot of people in this room that would get every single question right, I can guarantee
You're
you.
putting me in a difficult spot now. Next question.
I think one of the most revealing moments for Donald Trump, and one that somehow doesn't get talked about enough, was the infamous person, woman, man, camera, TV moment. Remember that? He proudly described it like it was a major accomplishment, saying things like, "At the start of the test, you identify an elephant, and I know elephants." But here's the thing. Passing a basic cognitive test isn't supposed to be a victory lap. It's actually a serious evaluation, usually given to check someone's mental sharpness for health and safety reasons, not something you celebrate on national television. The fact that our former president treated it like a personal achievement really shows the depth of his ego. That's where we are. Instead of reflection, we get self-congratulation. And this obsession isn't new. Trump constantly fixates on intelligence, IQ, and who he thinks is smart or not smart. He's even talked about it in relation to his own family, including his son-in-law. And honestly, that says a lot. Stick around for what comes next, because it's revealing.
Let me just answer the Jared. So Jared's a very smart guy. He did the Abraham Accords, as some people say, the Abraham, which I love the way that sounds, but he did the Abraham Accords. It was a great thing. 4 big countries joined. If I were president, if the election would have been a correct election, which it wasn't, you'd have every country in there. Maybe even Iran would have been in there, frankly. But you'd have every country in. Now, by the way, that's going to be filled up rather quickly. People want to join the Abraham Accords. And I put Jared there because he's a very smart person. And he knows the region, knows the people, knows a lot of the players. And the combination of him and Steve Witkoff and Marco and Cooper, who is, as I hear, has been fantastic. and others that were involved. JD was very much involved. I mean, we had a very smart group of people working. We had a lot of different players, different countries, and very diverse countries, very different from each other. They had certain things in common, but they had a lot of things, mostly things that were not at all common to their countries. So we had a very smart group of people. These are high IQ people. Okay, I talk about how many low IQ people we have in our government. We got some real low ones, but some shockingly low. But these are very high IQ people, and that's what we want. I like high IQ people. Yeah.
I think most people would disagree with that assessment. We'll keep calling out this kind of behavior and hypocrisy every single day. If you want to support that, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.